After that, they have a tea party, and Jack asks Dogen why they wanted to poison Saeed. Dogen says something in Japanese, and Lennon translates, saying the closest word for it in English is that Saeed was claimed. Jack looks confused as usual, so Dogen says in English that there is a darkness growing inside of Saeed, and when it reaches his heart, everything Saeed once was will be gone. Remember from what I said last recap, this is very similar to what Richard told Sawyer and Kate when they brought little Ben to him to be revived. He told them that Ben would never be the same boy again after he was presumably resurrected in the same temple pool that Saeed was dunked in. However, the pool wasn't dark for Ben as it was for Saeed. Saeed might not even be himself already, and I think a clue to this possibility could be the conversation that he had with Miles earlier. Remember, Miles asked him, did you see a bright light, or did you see any angels singing, or did you see any dead relatives? As we know, he can talk to dead people. Now, he's being completely serious asking these questions. He's trying to figure Saeed out, and by his facial expressions, we can tell that something weird is going on, something different than normal, besides the fact that he just got resurrected. Saeed says the only thing he remembers, the last thing he remembers, is being shot, but this answer seems intentionally vague. I mean, if someone was possessing his body at this point, it would be the easy answer. But what about the time after he was shot? The time he went in the van, the construction site, and the actual incident? I think this could be a clue for us to show that someone's already possessing his body at this point. Another clue could be the way Saeed cried when he was tortured. It just didn't seem like the old Saeed would cry that way, even though it was painful. Some people have asked if Dogen wants to kill Saeed, why doesn't he just shoot him? Well, I think it's similar to the situation with Ben and Widmore and the Man in Black and Jacob not being able to kill each other. I think they're subject to the same rules. They needed Jack to give Saeed the pill, just like the Man in Black needed Ben to kill Jacob, and I think shooting him would be pointless. Dogen doesn't say what claimed him, but when Jack asks how he can be sure, Dogen informs Jack that the same thing happened to his sister, Claire. And I'll talk more about Claire at the end, but right now let's talk about Saeed and his darkness infection. What I want to know more about, though, is that cure that the Dharma Initiative supposedly came up with. I mean, it could be all just a mind game, but they seem to know a lot about Smokey, especially using their sonic fences. We see Desmond take it, and Claire and Charlie as well. Okay, now let's go back to Saeed and what's going on with him. A lot of people are thinking that it could be the Man in Black inside of Saeed, like I talked about kind of last week. But there's a big difference here between the Locke case and the Saeed case. With Locke, we saw that the Man in Black took over his form and manifested himself as him, but didn't take over his body or possess him, as we see with Saeed. Because with Locke we saw the corpse, in Saeed there's no corpse, it's just him getting up, his dead body getting up. So I think it's safe to assume that Saeed is being possessed in some way right now. I don't necessarily think it's the actual Man in Black, but I think he can now be some sort of servant to him. Maybe Smokey isn't directly possessing him right now, but he could have some sort of control over him. So let's go back to Kate in the jungle with Jin, Aldo, and Justin. They see a tripwire in the jungle, and Kate thinks it's one of Rousseau's old traps. Justin seems confused and claims that Rousseau died years ago. Aldo shuts him up, and Kate wants to know why. Aldo gets all mad and yells, "I'm the one you whacked upside the head 3 years ago." He keeps on talking, so she whacks him upside the head again and makes the trap hit both of them. Jin and Kate escape, and Jin goes off alone to look for Sun, while Kate goes off to find Sawyer. She finds him at his old house where he used to live with Juliet, and he gets all nostalgic, looking through an old box. He realizes Kate's spying on him, so they talk, and eventually they go sit by the dock of the bay. She tells him she came to the island to find Claire, to reunite her with Aaron. Kate, being the total rebound girl that she is, tries to comfort Sawyer, telling him it's her fault Juliet died. But Sawyer says, nah, it's my fault. He says it's because he didn't want to be alone. He pulls out a wedding ring, and Kate gets excited, but he skips it across the lake like a stone. He says, I just want to be alone, and you should go back. And then he heads to the house, but of course Kate probably takes this as, I just want to be with you, and you should come with me. So of course that's what she does. So we go back to Jin, just minding his own business, when Aldo attacks him from nowhere like a monkey, and Jin tries to run away, but his foot gets caught in a polar bear trap. And right when Aldo is about to shoot him, both he and Justin get shot. Poor Justin. Jin looks to see who the sniper was, and he's shocked to see that it's a crazy looking Claire. Okay, let's talk about Claire here for a little bit and what might be going on with her. I think the obvious answer here, just like Dogen said, is that she was also claimed by the darkness. After all, we see her chatting it up, laughing like the Joker and acting like a supervillain in the cabin with Christian, who I think it's possible was the Nemesis himself, the Man in Black himself manifested. In the last scene, however, Claire looks crazed, but she looks different than she did in the cabin that we saw last season. One idea is that she actually breaks free from the darkness. Maybe she was infected just like Rousseau's team, but now she's free and living like Rousseau. Maybe she's going to be the one that helps Sayid break free from this infection. We see in this episode that Miles looks strangely at Sayid when he dies and then wakes up, aside from the fact that he just died and woke up. But it had the exact same look in his eyes when he was talking to Claire. Remember in the jungle when New Otherton exploded and she should have died, or now we know she probably did die. Well, he might not be able to sense the darkness, but he seems to know something's not right there in both cases. And like I was just talking about, remember back in season 4 when Seanie and his mercenaries blew up the barracks and how Claire miraculously survived the explosion even though she should have died. Remember she says to Miles, "Wow, we're lucky to be alive." And Miles is all, "I wouldn't be too sure." Maybe she was claimed the same way Sayid was, and again, Miles knows something isn't right. Another idea that I was reading that I think could be a stretch is that Claire gets infected when she drinks the water from Ethan's canteen outside the staff station. Remember she said it was sour, maybe signifying that the water she drank was actually the darkened water from the spring. Okay, so the obvious connection here to Claire is Rousseau. They both have a crazed look, they both shoot at people with rifles, they both set traps. I think it's pretty safe to assume, and I think it has to be implied, that Claire is the new Rousseau. So now that we know a little bit more about Claire, what does that tell us about Rousseau, who we never really got to know that well? Well, like I was talking about earlier, the infection that Dogen talks about could possibly be the same thing as the sickness that Rousseau always talks about. Remember last season, we saw it affect her entire team, and she had to shoot them all. But remember right before that, they were acting like zombies, serving the smoke monster. The one idea here that a lot of people are having is that every appearance of Rousseau that we've seen so far since the 815 crash has actually been the smoke monster. It's a possibility, but that's assuming that when Aldo and Justin are saying that Rousseau died years ago, it's not just referring to the 3 years ago when we saw her died, but actually a long time ago. However, I don't think this is true, and I think the line about her being dead for years is actually referring to her dying 3 years ago in 2004 like we saw from Kimmy's men. And I think it was supposed to be a reminder for us as the audience that it couldn't have been Rousseau who set the traps. So who could it have been? And as we later saw, it was Claire. Okay, now for something I haven't done in a while, Gus's photo hunt. If you don't know what it is, each week I'll be posting part of a picture from a random scene of Lost. And if you think you know what it is, tell me what it is and which episode it's from in a video response only. And the first person to do it correctly wins and gets a fake trophy on lostvideorecaps.com in the trophy section there. And if no one gets it, the next week I'll post another part of the picture until someone eventually gets it. So here's the picture for this week. What is it? Okay, unanswered questions time. What I like to do for this last segment of the show, just put some questions that we don't know the answers to yet, some of the big questions that arose from this episode. And down in the comment section below, you guys can talk about what you think the answers actually are. First, what is claimed Sayid? Then, is it the same sickness as mentioned by Rousseau? What are your opinions on Claire? And lastly, why does Sayid have to voluntarily take the pill? And again, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Alright guys, that's it for me. I'm sorry this episode was like twice as short as last week, but this episode was twice as short and there wasn't as much stuff to cover, weren't as many secrets. From now on, I'm going to be aiming for these videos to be coming up on Sundays, like this one is, either midday or late day my time. Oh, and also, if you guys subscribe, you get these videos automatically, so help me out by doing that. I'll see you guys next week, and God bless.